everybody. I am Jared Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome to another GeneaVlogger live stream. Having some trouble getting set up today. As you can see, for some reason, my green screen isn't working. So trying to get that all done and then getting texts from people, and it's just like, yeah. But hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. As you can see, there's this new thing where I can show comments on screen, so I'm trying that out. Although I was looking at something, and apparently since I'm streaming on Twitch too, I might have to turn it off for a bit. I don't know. I have to figure that out. But hope everyone's doing well today. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right, starting to feel like I'm getting on track now. But hello. Today's stream, I don't have anything planned. We're just going to be chatting away. As many of you may already remember from last week, I am no longer going to be streaming on my Professional Genealogist Reacts channel. I'm going to only be streaming on this channel, or at least I'm going to be testing that out. We'll see how it goes. If it seems like it's not working out, I might go back to what I was doing, or I don't know. I'm trying it all out. But we'll be continuing every Friday. I'm going to aim for 4 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. So if you've noticed, I've actually been getting that pretty well lately. Yeah, let's go through some hellos. And then as usual, if you have any questions, put them in chat. If chat gets pretty heavy, although, I mean, we're starting out pretty light so far today. I may not be able to hit every question, but as I say right here-ish, if you do a super chat with a question at it, I guarantee I will answer those. Plus that helps me out a whole lot in supporting the channel and making sure I can continue actually doing this. So let's go through some hellos. So Julia Joyce, hello. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well as well, Julia. Oh, sorry, Jack. Dog's underneath my feet. Karma Gal, hello from Nebraska. It's raining. Oof. Yeah. It's not raining here. It's a beautiful day out. I was actually walking my dogs earlier and thinking, maybe I should just cancel the stream and just take the dogs to the park or something. But Nick Brokema, guten Abend, Groningen. Alles goed? Ja, alles goed met mij. Ik hoop dat alles goed met jou ook. Stig, hi everybody from Oslo, Norway. Hello, Stig, our Scandinavian representation. I don't know what I was saying there. M. Qua, hi from Virginia. Hello, M. Qua. Thanks for joining. Tasha Carl, hi from Minnesota. Hello, Tasha. Good to see you. Gazillion PT, hello. I'll watch this later. I'm at a concert. All right. Well, hopefully with this new, where is it? Right here? Here, yeah. Is it this finger? No, it's this finger. Okay, right here, all the chat right there. You'll be able to see what's going on in chat. For some reason, some of you may have noticed, once I've finished the streams, it'll take days, sometimes even like a week or two before you can see the live chat again. So I need to look and see if maybe there's a setting I have that screws that up or something. I don't know. If anyone knows, let me know. Matt Fass, hello from Sweden. Hello, Matt. Good to see you. And Alexandra, hello, everyone from Koblenz, Germany. Hello, Alexandra. And Lewis Playford, hello from Georgia. Hello, Lewis. And James Burton, tuning in from London. Hope everyone is well. Thank you for joining. Hope you're doing well as well, James. Laura Wallace, coming in from Ontario, Canada. We really do. We really are just a worldwide audience. Like, there's 31 people currently watching this. And we have everyone like spread all over the place. Obviously, I don't think I often get a lot of people coming in from Africa. I know we've had a few, and then we get here and there with Asian people living in Asia. But either way, it's still really cool. JC the Music Man, good afternoon. Good afternoon, JC. Good to see you. And Charlie Oliver's the map of the Emerald City in the Land of Oz. I mean, with what they allow you to do there, you could get into that mindset where it's like that. But no, that's just Amsterdam. Het is Amsterdam. The stad. Wait, Yeah, I guess the Stad van Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam. Let's say the Stad of Amsterdam. Ik ken niet. Solar H, hi from England. Hello, Solar. Good to see you. And my cousin, Catherine Michael, getting lost in a rabbit hole on Viva's V, 35 pages open at once. That's what will happen with Viva's V, especially like for those who don't use Viva's V a lot. When you go on there and you find a record and then you notice off to the side, it's got like a list of like, here's 30 other records we think are related to the same family. It's just like, what? Next Lifetime. Hi, Next Lifetime. Good to see you. And Sandy Ross. Hello, Sandy. Hi, Mom. Viktorov. Hello from Latvia. Hello, Viktorov. Good to see you. I guess I don't know how often we get Baltic state representation, so that's pretty cool. Latvia. Charlie, I meant when it was just the green screen. Oh, it was just the green screen. Yeah, I guess. Julia, all right. Question. I have my maternal haplogroup from 23andMe, living DNA. Is it worth doing FTDNA full sequence mtDNA at 159? Will it be the same haplogroup? Well, the great thing about the FTDNA test is that it's not just going to give you a haplogroup, it's also going to give you your mitochondrial DNA matches. So you actually have a possibility of being able to genealogically connect with these matches, because just like with Y-DNA matches, Y-DNA matches, it's that purely paternal side. Well, mitochondrial, that purely maternal side. So you get a match there, you trace up your mother's line and their mother's line, and you're going to find a shared maternal ancestor. So I think it's definitely worth it. I don't know necessarily how much more in depth of a haplogroup it will give you, but I'm pretty sure it'll give you kind of the biggest subclade, especially right now. Family Tree DNA has been doing the Million Mito project. Let's get that pulled up. mtDNA Million Mito project. And basically, it's just a big project of them trying to improve their mitochondrial results. And so you get a lot more information. Let's do that. Let's make that bigger. So basically, they've figured out a lot more subclades, and they've been able to give more pinpoint accuracy in a sense, or I guess accuracy might not be the right word, but more of a pinpointed sort of results where there's a little bit more nuance that you can get out of it. So let me see if it will be an issue if I bring up my mitochondrial DNA results. Oh, don't make me do this now. It's making me reset my password. What a terrible time to do that. What a terrible time to do that. All right. Well, I got to do it because it's forcing me to do this. Let's see. All right. We're going to have to start a new one. Actually, did I already do one? Basically, I hate that they're forcing me to do this. I hate when websites do this. And I don't know if I remember correctly, but I feel like I saw a thing talking about actually how when websites force you to do this too much, it actually makes it less secure. So, all right. They 12 characters too. All right. Hopefully this isn't slowing everything down too much. but I want to pull up my results so I can show people like some of what they brought out, because if you've done the big Y test, if you go over the full Mito test now, you'll notice that there's a lot of similar things that they provide, which is really cool. All right. Gosh, it's such bad timing. Oh wow. Oh, I guess they're doing like a whole thing right now. It looks like. Well, for anyone who hasn't been in their family tree DNA results in a while, if you log in, it's looking like they make you reset your password, and it looks like they make you re-agree to their terms of service. Gonna have to review that later. See what they've updated. I'm sure there's some article out there. I wonder if Judy Russell, the legal genealogist, put anything out about that. Update about what has changed. All right. Let's see. Discover haplogroups. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. I think this should be fine to show. I think I can show this. Yeah, it doesn't matter if people see that, I don't think. Yeah. Okay, let me see. What did I miss? Emilis from Lithuania. So we've got multiple Baltic representation in here. So awesome. And a Lithuanian, which I recently discovered my slightly Lithuanian, like it's just right in Lithuania, right outside of Poland and Belarus, but part of the Litvak area that my family came from, actually. And I just discovered it recently. But all right. JC Music Man, DNA research has progressed greatly in recent years. I wonder how long before everyone has a DNA sequencer in their house right next to their quantum PC. Yeah, I don't know. That's not something I would ever necessarily think would be super common, necessarily like an instant DNA sequencer. But I don't know. Maybe people will need it or something. But yeah, it's definitely it's crazy how fast it's fading. What I think will be happening is I think in like 10 years there's going to be it'll be commonplace where a lot of people will have at least one, if not multiple, DNA profiles for deceased ancestors of theirs, either through artifact testing or reconstructed genomes. But we're not going to talk about that now. We're going to talk about this. So this is the this is one of the things they give you. So here's like your haplogroup story. So if I remember correctly, I think on 23andMe, my mitochondrial haplogroup is just H1. It might be H1A, but I'm not 100% sure. And then you can see that for mine, it brings it down to H1A1. But then everyone who descends from H1AI1, we could all share an ancestor sometime between the year 550 BCE and today. So that's over 2,000 years. 20. What is that? 2,500 years. So that, it's a long time. That's a long time. Let's see. I got an email from FTDNA last week saying my Y DNA haplogroup changed. First time that's happened. I did big Y a couple of years ago. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that means that they found someone within your subclade that had a specific terminal SNP that helped redefine the subclades. That's always like one of the best things. Yeah. You need it. Oh, you're talking about, yeah, better hire a lawyer to review the terms. Yeah. Charlie, I haven't fully confirmed it, but it's possible that my Romani 7th great grandparents were from Brest, Belarus. Interesting. Yeah, I knew for a long time I had ancestry from Grodno in present day Belarus. But that was a family that I have not been able to trace very well. So, still working on it. All right, I'm gonna stop the screen share for a second because the next thing I want to show, I just want to double check that it's not going to be an issue to show it. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure it didn't show any names. I'm gonna be careful doing this stuff about privacy. All right, so this is what's known as the time tree. And so anyone who's done Big Y will recognize this. This is one of the new, well, a lot of this in this area, this Discover, this is like the newer stuff from the Mito Million project. But with this, you can see here's H1AI1. And then this is basically kind of like my subclade in a sense, where they haven't necessarily figured out a specific subclade of this, whereas they have for some others. But they have figured out that there is a clustering around this based on some sort of, I think it's a specific SNP or some sort of signature. I have to look into it. I haven't looked too deep into this, so kind of out of the blue talking about this based on Julia's question. But you can kind of see that. And then you can even see like here, there's this Viking age ancestral what is this? Is this okay, it's a site. So DNA from there, and that person had H1AI1A, which is a subclade off of my group. So it's all very, very interesting. So some of the stuff that you can get from doing the family tree DNA test versus just looking at your haplogroups through like 23andMe, your living DNA, or even I think Family Tree DNA, their family finder has haplogroups with it. All right, let's stop sharing. What is it doing? There we go. Yeah, Jose Xavier de Fusion. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but hopefully I did. Hello, Jared. I got my 23andMe results and loaded it onto Family Tree DNA and got OK644 for haplogroup. Should I continue taking more Y-DNA tests to figure deeper into the lineage things? I would highly suggest that. Kind of like I was just showing with the mitochondrial DNA, the more advanced Y-DNA tests that you take, the more advanced the results are going to be, and the more you're really going to be able to get out of it. If you do a big Y-DNA test, that's going to be the best by far. With Y-DNA testing, with Y-DNA testing, the big Y does 700 STRs, but even more, it does the Y chromosome SNPs, all the SNPs. So the difference is STRs are where they're looking at areas on your genome, so not specific like singular spots, but like a whole bunch of spots where your DNA repeats itself. And so they'll be able to count how many times does it repeat itself. So you have your base pairs, A, C, T, and G. Well, you look at your DNA and you might notice at certain spots, all of a sudden it's ACT, 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 and it continues like 8 different times. A, C, and T as the base. And so that's what's known as a short tandem repeat, STR. So when you see like the Y67 or Y37 or Y111, that's telling you how many STRs they're testing. So 67 STRs, 111 STRs, etc. With Big Y, I think they call it's Big Y 700 because they're testing 700 STRs. So you can see how many differences there are. But on top of that, they're also testing the SNPs, the Y chromosome SNPs, where SNPs are single nucleotide polymorphism. So they're literally single, so a very specific spot on the genome, and it's a nucleotide, the base. Polymorphism, basically meaning that from the comparative DNA profile. Basically, there's like a DNA profile they have set as like what we compare everything against. There's an expected variation that if someone has that variation, that is indicative of a specific thing, of a connection. So a SNP on the Y-DNA, we can use those. That's how we get the haplogroups and all of that for the most part. So yeah, hopefully this is making sense. With Y-DNA stuff, it's always harder to talk in depth about it sometimes. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful. But I would definitely suggest doing that. You know, if budgeting is not an issue, I would definitely say just go ahead and do the big Y. And on top of that, if you do big Y, I would suggest uploading that to other available phylogenetic trees online. So YFull is one of those. The other one would be Snipedia. I can't remember others. Let me pull up YFull. Oh, and I don't have my I haven't gone to YFull in a while, apparently. Let's see. Do I have one for YFull? Yes, I do. Okay. Okay, apparently I don't. But with the phylogenetic trees, that's where you get the most in-depth answer, or I guess the most in-depth view of how you fit into the world family tree through Y-DNA. Okay, apparently don't have it, so we're just gonna go look at a random spot. It's not gonna be where mine is. I have to find my actually I have another way I can figure it out, but not gonna matter too much. So this is what the YFull tree looks like. So this is a phylogenetic tree, and basically it's just a family tree, but it's using terminal SNPs. So you can see here plus 2 SNPs. So if anyone has these 2 SNPs, Y4973, so that's a specific spot on your genome. So the Y chromosome and spot 4973, and then Y chromosome spot 4968. Okay, those spots, those SNPs, if you have that variation, you're from this haplogroup. And then it goes down even further. And so you can see the defining SNPs that are making all of these groups up. And the other way you can look at it too, you see this shows the formed. So when did it form about? And then also to TMRCA, to most recent common ancestor. So there's a difference in the formed versus to most recent common ancestor, just because of, I guess, the way that, interpreting the data. So, that's getting into the real nitty gritty kind of, which is starting to get out of the level of my expertise with it. I know a lot, especially genealogically, but this is starting to get more into the population genetics of things and kind of the more advanced DNA testing, which I know a good bit of, but not enough to get super nitty gritty on it, but enough that, we look at these and we know, okay, for anyone who's in this group, we know that the shared ancestor they have is going to be somewhere between the year 2300 and the year 950, right? And then we can have some groups that, like, let's scroll down. We have some groups like here where it's super recent, to most recent common ancestor between 1350 years and 150 years YBP, meaning years before present. So you do a big Y and you get a real close match. You can tell within the genealogical time window about where you're related. And then there's a lot more advanced tools in the discover area of the big Y that can be super, super helpful as well, in terms of understanding the results. Emilis, well, cool. I do see some Lithuanian. Cool. Cool. Next lifetime, I'm interested in mtDNA and Y testing, but isn't it expensive? Yeah, it can get expensive. One way around that, which there still is a bit of expense to it, but it's not super expensive, or it's not crazy, I guess, is whole genome sequencing, and that'd be through likely either Nebula or Dante, or the kind of top two. And whole genome sequencing, that's your whole genome. So that's all of your autosomal DNA, the first 22 pairs of chromosomes. That's all of your X chromosome DNA and all of your chromosome DNA if you have a Y chromosome, and then all of your mitochondrial DNA as well. So it gives you the whole package, and you can then upload that DNA into other databases. Family tree DNA allows you to upload autosomal DNA to it, but I don't think they allow you to upload the advanced Y DNA testing. So like you can upload your autosomal DNA to family tree DNA and it'll give you the haplogroups in Family Finder, but you have to actually pay for their testing to be able to get into their stuff. I'm pretty sure. I need to double check on that actually. But I think I tried doing that before, and it was like, no, you can't upload your Y DNA, but you can upload it to Y full, and Y full also has a mitochondrial phylogenetic tree, and yeah. Emilis, my ancestry doesn't go out of Lithuania for ages. I still haven't found anyone on my mother's side out of Lithuania, 10 generations or more, but on my father's side, found some German. Christina Shatner. Should be Christine. Okay, interesting. Brister, what's the most distant ancestor you have found a DNA connection to? It's going to be kind of hard to answer, but it would probably, I mean, it all kind of is about, I think, fifth great grandparents, maybe sixth great grandparents. The thing is that I have a lot of DNA matches with a lot of cousins where we show through the paper trail that we connect through specific ancestors, and then we have DNA matching. The problem is that our DNA matching is so far back, or it's such a small amount, and then we're related so far back that the DNA that we share could possibly be through a whole other line. Even if we are related through the way the paper trail says, we could have some other unknown relation that's just as distant or maybe even more distant, and that's where the DNA is coming from. And that's one of the biggest difficulties when you're dealing with really distant matches, and even more when you're dealing with smaller amounts of smaller amounts of DNA. Now you can overcome that by advanced DNA work, like through triangulation and segment overlapping and things like that. But even then, you're still kind of running into those issues, especially when dealing with an ancestry like mine, which I come from an endogamous population. And endogamous means that that's a population group where they largely married and had children with only others from that same population group. And so all of the descendants of that population group are all related in multiple ways. And so this is something that happens generations and generations. So island populations like Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, they have some of the highest amounts of endogamy because they were limited geographically. Very few people leaving, very few new people coming in. So it makes it so that everybody's related way, way more. So when you're dealing with that, that's one of the issues that you have to consider. But through my work, I know, it's largely all on my mom's side. Through the DNA testing, we've been able to kind of confirm back to like sixth great grandparents. And that's through both my Sephardi lines and my Ashkenazi lines. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, let's see. Where am I in chat? Okay, yeah, I'm a little behind. I'm going to kind of try to jump up ahead. Let's see, James. I still struggle to wrap my head around what it all means. My haplogroup is RFT227101, and there are only 2 other DNA tested descendants apparently. Well, is that, have you put your FT, or have you put your Y-DNA results in other databases? Because YFull does have a matching database component to it. And there are people in YFull that aren't in family tree DNA, because you get a lot of people like me who did the whole genome sequencing and then uploaded it into YFull. And some of those people are not going to be doing family tree DNA's test. So you may have more matches there. But yeah, the Y-DNA stuff can be difficult, especially when the best matches you have are still like, well, we could be related sometime between 1,000 years ago to maybe, 400 years ago. And it's like, yeah. Okay, let's see. Puma Monta, hi. I have a third great grandfather that moved from Bordeaux to Lima, Peru in mid 1800s. Okay, this is like a multi. I can see I have relatives with Guillotine as a last name, but I cannot find the exact connection to Joseph Ignace Guillotine. If anyone can help me out with finding if my grandfather said was not true or not. Also, I'm curious if I'm a relative of Guillotine, if that will be enough weight for French citizenship. Okay, so yeah, not really a question for me to answer on stream. But hey, if anyone wants to help Puma Monza out, let her know. Paradise loading. I don't know why that took me a second to be able to read. I'm primarily in a excuse me, let me get a drink. Jeez. Better. Oh, and as soon as I said better, I breathed in some of my drink. All right. Focus. Maybe it'll focus in a second. Okay. Until then, you get a blurry me talking. I'm primarily of African and Asian descent, but my haplogroup is U5A1, which is European, I believe. For the life of me, I can't figure out haplogroups. Well, with haplogroups, the thing to remember is that they're going to be so far back where the connection is. So all you know for sure is that if you trace up that lineage, so I'm assuming this is a mitochondrial haplogroup. It's really bothering me. It's not coming into focus at all. Let's see if I do this. Does that help at all? Focus. There we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm back. All right. So with mitochondrial, we know it's going to be up that maternal line. So you look up your mother's line, you're going to get that. Or that's where you're going to find that connection. So if U5A1 is European, which I don't know if it is, let's see. U5A1 haplogroup. Because one thing is that there's a lot of haplogroups that cover a large area. So we've got U5A1. So look here, 8700 BC. Oh, wait. I guess I should probably share my screen if you're going to look at it, right? Share screen. Share. There we go. Whoops. Okay, so U5A1, and you can see 8700 BCE. So that means that that's going to be your closest ancestor. So if you look, U5A1, you've got thousands of years. Now it says, let's see. So these are the countries that people with U5A1 largely come from. And so you can see 3% of participants with self-reported direct maternal ancestry from this country belong to U5A1. So Canada, United States, but more importantly, you have African and Asian results. So we see South Africa, that's probably going to be the European component of South Africa. North Africa, kind of same thing. But then with the Asian results, well, not a lot. These are not necessarily areas where you get a ton of European ancestry. I mean, you certainly do, especially, with, considering the British colonial or the British colonies in Asia and the other colonies in Asia of European countries. Although granted, some of them, I mean, look, you get some of them like the Philippines and Indonesian stuff that have none of it. But, with Russia, 4%, and then it's definitely, it's all over the place. But definitely largely European, but kind of getting into Asian. So depending on what your Asian ancestry may be, that could be, especially is your Asian ancestry on your maternal side. But at the very least, as you do your family Ancestry and you build your family tree, you know, going up the paper trail, just doing your mother's mother and her mother and her mother and so on, you always know that at some point up that line, you're going to find some sort of possible connection. Now, that's where the other difficulty comes in, is that with such a distant haplogroup that you have defined of U5A1, there's a lot that's going on. And if you do a more advanced mitochondrial DNA test, which I'm guessing based on U5A1, you're probably getting your haplogroup from like 23andMe or something, maybe Family Tree DNA or whatever. But it's Family Tree DNA is Family Finder, that is. But my guess is you haven't done the Family Tree DNA mitochondrial DNA test. And I would suggest doing that, because that's going to give you the most specific haplogroup. And then that haplogroup at the best, or at the very least, should hopefully bring it a lot closer in time from, 8,700 years to even within 2000 BCE or 1000 BC. I mean, you're talking about 7,500 more, years closer in time. And so you might find that you do that, and all of a sudden, you're coming from a subclade that has a large amount of ties to Asian countries that you're from. So, especially, do you come from any of these countries? And then, I wonder, let's see, actually, I got an idea. I'll do it over here. 5A1, Y4. Let's look at the phylogenetic tree on Y4. Going to let it load. All right, so here we have U5A1, and we can see that it's far, far back. But then as we go through, we can see the various subclades. And usually what you'll find with a lot of subclades, not always, is that you'll find a lot of commonality. Because basically what happened is some woman in that line went to some area, and then a large amount of her descendants are then from those areas. So like this, U5A1A1, well, we notice Netherlands, Denmark, Russia, Netherlands, Russia. So while not a very super specific area, it's kind of, let's see, what is that? Krasnodarsky? I don't know where that is. Where's Bashkorts? I'd have to look and see, but I'm guessing that these are probably more on the western side of Russia, closer to Europe. So kind of within a general range. But then we notice here, U5A1-A, well, we have Croatia, Egypt, Hungary, Russia, Iraq, Denmark. So this seemed to get much more out into the Levant, into the Middle East, into the Caucasus Mountains. I guess maybe not as much the Caucasus Mountains, but like down into the Balkans, obviously, with that Hungarian, and then, with Egypt, so kind of around the Mediterranean areas. So you can kind of see that it gets into specific spots. And then look here, like we have here in this subclade, there's a lot of people, but we do have this big, these are ancient, but ancient in China. So if it's ancient in China, let's see, these are remains from 3,000, 4,000 years ago. So if you have Chinese ancestry, then maybe there's this connection to whatever this ancient DNA is, because obviously this mitochondrial haplogroup was in China for 3 to 4,000 years ago. So you can kind of get an idea just by going through these things, and we can see more. That's interesting. We got Bulgaria and China. But you kind of can get an idea of things. Look, we've got a Kenyan. Interesting. But the interesting thing about haplogroups, and especially Y DNA testing and mitochondrial DNA testing, is because we're talking about one specific line, it takes one ancestor to completely go in a different direction than everybody else. And then all of a sudden you come from a super unique ancestry. As someone like me, if I went to some let's say I'm trying to think of how to put this, some grandiose story, but let's say like I was on a boat, and all of a sudden it capsized, and I was washed ashore, and found by some like long lost tribe that's had no contact with anybody. And then all of a sudden they bring me to their tribe and I marry and have children with people in that tribe. And then those children go on and have children, blah, blah, blah. Well, all of a sudden my DNA is a part of that tribe. And so even though I am the only one that's come and done that, well, then all of a sudden you go and test it. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And so it's just, it takes that one person. And if you think about this for thousands of years, I mean, think about all of the possibilities of, just one person from Europe who went on a trip on the Silk Road and ended up, having children with someone in a remote area of present day China. Now, all of a sudden, there's thousands of people who have this ancestry, these haplogroups, because of that one person. So yeah, very, very, very interesting. All right. Let's see. I need to find out where I am. I might have to kind of jump forward a bit. I did see there was a interesting question. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is the question I saw. Phyros, is it possible to share 214 centimorgans with a 80 centimorgan segment with a third cousin? Interesting. I definitely know that's a lot. The biggest question for you, and I'll have to keep my eye out, is do you come from a population that has known endogamy? Granted, an 80 centimorgan segment, that's huge. But I mean, it's always a possibility. Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like it's just within the range. So what we're looking at here, this is the shared centimorgan project on DNA Painter. We're going to make that bigger. Oh, I'm making the wrong... I'm making the wrong screen bigger. I'm making my personal screen. I need to make that screen. Okay, a little bit better. So we can see third cousin is well within the range of possibilities for 214, but we can see it's really, really low. So when we pull up the histogram, you can see that there are people that have known third cousins with that amount of DNA. And with that segment, the 80 centimorgan segment, I mean, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, Ashkenazi Jews with a common, very unusual surname match. So I would say definitely then, because number one, when you're dealing with an endogamous population, which Ashkenazi Jews are one of the typical endogamous populations discussed when it comes to DNA testing, having a third cousin with the 214 centimorgans isn't as crazy. Because as I mentioned before, with endogamy, it's a population where it's people largely having it's people within a single population largely having children with other people in that same population. So they all end up being related to each other in a lot of different ways because it's happening for many, many generations. So as an example that I talk about in one of my talks, I have a known cousin with this guy, I have a known cousin named Steve Jarrett. He's the president of the Jewish Genealogical Society of Pittsburgh. He's actually someone I've interviewed for when I used to do interviews on my channel. And he and I are related in like 3 or 4 different ways through the paper trail, but all of our closest relation is like 9th cousins once removed. But then we're also like 10th cousins and 11th cousins and 12th cousins. But then when we look at our DNA matching, because both of us had both of our parents test, they're all matching in all these different ways, whereas the ways that we know we're connected are both through both of our maternal lines. But our dads are matching, our moms are matching our dads, and so we're obviously related in all these different ways. So you end up sharing more in common with each other. So the main thing to really get out of what I'm saying here is that when you're doing DNA, or when you're looking at your DNA matches as someone from an endogamous population, you often are going to expect more shared DNA with people than the average. So when you look at these histograms on Shared Centimorgan Project, or if you look at some of the other ones that might be out there, you're usually going to be looking at the higher end of things and how much DNA you share. The other thing to remember is because of that, that means that when you look at your segments, not all of your segments are going to be necessarily from the same ancestry. One of the things that is the common suggestion for people from an endogamous population doing DNA testing is to look at your longest shared segment And if you have a large segment over 30 centimorgans, that's like real big green flag of this is a great match. You have a match with an 80 centimorgan segment, that's absolutely amazing. Because remember that when you have shared DNA with people, the more distant it is, the smaller the segments are going to be. So if you're an endogamous relation, that means that you're going to be related multiple ways in very distant ways, but because it's multiple ways, it's small segments adding up to large amounts. So when you look at those segments, the largest segments, that's how you're able to figure out what's going to be the what's going to actually be the matches that you probably are going to find them within the genealogical time window. Hopefully all that made sense. But yeah, when I saw that question, I was like, oh, that's a good one to answer. All right, well, I'm going to scroll forward. I'm kind of jumping a bunch of stuff, I think. Try not to go too far. It's 4:51. Oh, wow. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Wow, yeah. All right, we'll start at about 4. We'll start here with Anna Tommaso popping in right now. How is everyone? Good, Anna. Good to see you. Good to see you. MQuA, I did my DNA in my heritage. It gives me many distant matches, but I can't identify anyone from my father's grandfather's side. I don't know if my heritage did a haplogroup for me. Interesting. Okay. Well, one suggestion that I would say for this is that having your matches from your other side. So, if you think about it in a grandparent breakdown, you have it for your other 3 grandparents, your father's mother, your mother's parents. So if you have those DNA matches, what you want to do is go through your DNA matches and look for who are the people that aren't shared matches with any of the close matches from your other 3 sides. And make note of those, and those are likely going to be the matches that are from this father's grandfather's side, because more than likely you have matches through that side. It's just that they're at such a distant relation to you that you're not able to really figure it out or see it super easily. So that could be it. The other thing is with if you do the whole haplogroup thing, which I don't know if my heritage, I'm trying to think, I don't think my heritage does a haplogroup for you, but I think you can upload to FTDNA and get the haplogroup at the very least. I think there's you can download your results, and then there's like third-party websites that you can find stuff on where you can get a limited haplogroup. Like I think Steve Morse's website, Steve Morse haplogroups. Yeah, he has a predicting haplogroup thing where you can go in and do. I think it's. Yeah, I think that's what it. Yeah, I think you might be able to get it, because a lot of these tests, like MyHeritage, even though they don't give you the haplogroup necessarily, the chips that they're testing on will give some of those readings. And so if you get the raw DNA, you can go in there, find those readings for the Y chromosome or mitochondrial DNA or whatever, and then go in and put them in. So like each one of these, this is like a spot on the Y chromosome. Are these okay? These are STRs. So yeah. There might be another tool out there. I haven't done it. It's like one of those old school things that I think, with it being so commonplace to be able to get it elsewhere, a lot of people don't use it as much. I haven't used it in years, so I don't have first-hand experience in a while. Okay, let's jump forward. Aviaki, greetings, G. Greetings from Plano, Dallas, Texas. Greetings. All right, and then Phyros. And then let's see, Brister. I have a match that I share 77 centimorgans across one segment. I think we share 4th great grandparents or even greater. Yeah, that's always possible. In the genealogy or in the genetic genealogy community, a lot of people will nickname these sticky segments. And basically it's just indicating where you have a segment of shared DNA with someone who is a very distant relative to you. And so the idea is that those segments stayed with each line. But the thing is that a lot of people get confused by sticky segments and think that that means that like that DNA specifically has like a or is more common to stay with people or like not recombine out, but that's not necessarily the case. So I know that there's some genealogists who hate the term sticky segments. I always look at the amount of segments. My third cousins have around 90 centimorgans across 5 segments in common. Yeah. My favorite way with endogamous research to overcome it is the average segment size. Basically, how much DNA do you share? How many segments do you have? Divide total DNA shared by number of segments. You have your average segment size. And then anything over 10 is usually really good, and people have different amounts for it. So if anyone saw my video about the endogamy auto cluster that I was a consultant for, that's now on GEDmatch tier 1 membership, definitely go check out that video. If you haven't seen it, wait until the stream's over, obviously, and go watch the one without music. I know a lot of people hated that music, but I left both up. But anyway, with that endogamy auto cluster, that was one of the things to keep in mind was the average or one of the things that we used as part of it was the average segment size, larger segment, all that. All right, Ron Grass. Excuse me, let me blow my nose. Hold on a second. Starting to get that like Oh, much better. I can breathe. Much better. All right. Hi, Jared. So my DNA results are 23% England, Northwest Europe, 18% Sweden, 12% Germanic Europe, 3% France, 2% Denmark, 2% Spain, 1% Ivory Coast and Ghana, 1% Ireland. Could I possibly have Viking ancestry or Viking DNA? I mean, it's possible. I mean, the Vikings were from areas of Northwestern Europe that you have percentages of, very common sort of Northwestern breakdown, minus that 1% Ivory Coast and Ghana that kind of sticks out there. But everything else, very typical. Well, also, I guess that Spain, that 2% Spain stands out a bit. But I would say that, it's a possibility, but you just, I don't know. I think when it comes to the whole Viking thing, it's kind of one of those things that like everyone loves to be like, oh, I have Viking ancestry. I have Viking ancestry. And I mean, I guess it's certainly a possibility, but I guess the thing is actually just, doing the work, the genealogy to prove it. And I don't know if there's necessarily any like ancient DNA results of Vikings that people can compare against that would give a, high confidence about that. But I'm also like, I'm not someone who really ever focuses on stuff of like, that necessarily, I guess I don't even know about like Viking genealogy. Is it possible to trace to Viking ancestry? Like that's something I don't know. Like, one of the things with genealogy is everyone expects a genealogist to know everything about every population in the world. And it's just impossible. And not saying that, you're expecting that at all. But it's always kind of, one of the joys of it too, is that you're constantly learning about all of these new, constantly learning about all of these new populations and histories and unique things. And, I know people talk about Viking all the time, but it's like, I don't even know if there's actual like proven tracing to Viking ancestry, which funny enough, I did that reaction to that the Welsh Vikings video about DNA testing and all of that. And I kind of didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's okay. Yeah. It's possible to trace to royal families than it is to Vikings. There are no Viking family trees with actual historical data. My ancestors, Norway, miss any records before the 13th century. The UK throne line claims ancestors to some Norwegian nobility. Okay, so yeah, so it's it's one of those things. So whether or not you can claim Viking ancestry or Viking DNA, I really don't know if you could confidently. But I mean, you could certainly say, you know, based on my DNA results, it seems that Viking DNA is a possibility. But saying that it's the definite, I'm not sure. You know, I don't know enough about Viking ancestry and DNA stuff, or I guess not even DNA stuff, but like Viking history to be able to tell about that. All right, let's see. I kind of lost my place. Okay, I did see that. MyHeritage doesn't give haplogroups. Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't think they gave haplogroups, but I'm pretty sure if you download the raw DNA results and you look at the, you know, the text file or the CSV or however they have it, if it's a zip file, you got to unzip it. What was that? I think one of my dogs is dreaming, barking right now. I just heard him do. He does these little when he does that. So cute. Okay. So yeah. If you download the raw DNA results and look at the file, you should be able to find it. You might have to read some guides on how to locate it in there. But yeah. Dan Edwards, much of Europe was mixed by people going a Viking in what we used to call the migration period. Yeah. All right, let's see. Berkay Sulek, I'm a bit confused with endogamy. How do we define it exactly? Because I assume most societies were endogamous at varying levels. What are the criteria for defining an endogamous community? You know, I think that's a question that is something that has not necessarily been answered very specifically. But I know in my mind, I've looked at it more as not like that there's specifically here's an endogamous population, but it's more of varying levels of endogamy. So like I always kind of group it as the following. So like there's like light level endogamy, which would be what I would call American colonial endogamy. So that's where, you know, it's something that's only been within the past maybe 300 to 400 years or so. And it's not a lot of mixing. There's still a lot of like continuity and new people coming in and, you know, all of that, but there's still a good amount of crossover. So with American colonial ancestry, anyone who can trace to the American colonies is often going to be able to find multiple shared ancestors with other people from the American colonies. But I call it light level endogamy because it usually doesn't really affect the DNA that much. But sometimes it can cause issues, especially if, you know, you do find someone where, you know, they have this match, but then you find out that, you know, well, they're 6 cousins because they share this ancestor, they're 5th cousins because they share this ancestor, and then they're 4th cousins because they share this ancestor. And then it's like, well, where is that DNA necessarily coming from? And it's not always as cut and dry as that. So like, but that's kind of light level endogamy. Then you have kind of like medium endogamy, I want to say, where that would be something kind of like French Canadian ancestry, where there is endogamy and they are kind of coming from it's about the same amount of time, but maybe a little bit more just because of the Acadians from before coming over. But it's affecting the DNA a little bit, but not a lot. So you see more generations of it, and you see it continuing a bit more. Then you have kind of the standard endogamy I kind of think of, which would be like Jewish endogamy, where Jewish endogamy, you know, you're dealing with something where it's been happening for over 1,000 years. You know, over 1,000 years, Jews have been only marrying and having children with other Jews largely. And so anybody who's Jewish compares to anyone else who's Jewish, you're going to find that they're related in multiple ways to at least a, you know, around a 9th, 10th cousin distance, I would probably say. And so you're having the endogamy where it's affecting things for sure, but it's still something you can kind of get through, I guess. Over that, then you have kind of like higher end endogamy, and that would be kind of like Cajun ancestry. So this is where you've got a very I mean, it can always, I guess it can vary on how things are defined necessarily, but like with the Cajuns, you have a very isolated community that, it kind of formed within the past 300 to 400 years, really. But at that same time, even though it's a mixture of different groups, once they were there, then they were only having children with largely other people of those same groups. And um, so they have a very high effect on the DNA. So for anyone who has Cajun ancestry or Creole ancestry, they look at their DNA matches and they are going to have a harder time than people with Jewish ancestry, because everyone else who's Cajun and Creole is going to have a lot of shared DNA with them. And then there's the super high endogamy, and that's going to be like your Pacific Islanders and stuff like that, where it's, something that's been really intense for thousands and thousands of years. Now, this is really, even though I'm kind of like, I'm not glossing over it necessarily, but this is very simplified in itself. When it comes to endogamy, it's made up of two main things, really. But happening a lot of times over, and it's just how often it happens that you get your variation of how intense that endogamy is. But it's one, pedigree collapse, aka cousins marrying cousins. You have first cousins marrying each other. Well, their children, all of their descendants, are already going to be being related to everyone through that shared line two ways. But, pedigree collapse happening a lot of times over and over. So not just first cousins, but second cousins and third cousins, and even, fourth and fifth cousins and sixth cousins, where they probably don't even know about it necessarily. But especially with it being from an endogamous group, and then you marry your sixth cousin and have children with them, then it's just kind of exacerbating things. But then it's not just the pedigree collapse, it's also the double relations. So being related in two ways. The most simple form of that is what's known as double first cousins. So let's say you have this guy, he meets a girl, they get married, have a child. Well, at their wedding, the guy's brother meets the girl's sister, and they fall in love, they get married, and they also have children. Well, the children from the first couple and the children from the second couple are going to be related as first cousins twice, because their fathers were brothers and their mothers were sisters. So they're going to have more DNA shared than a typical first cousin. So this is happening tons and tons of times over. So kind of like I was saying with this cousin of mine, Steve Jaron, we're 9th cousins and 10th cousins and 11th cousins, and that's just through the paper trail ways. If we were able to build out perfect family trees for, our entire family tree up to like 6 great grandparents, or, even 6 great grandparents, we're probably going to find multiple connections. And we know our relations through our Dutch Jewish lines, but we also have Eastern European lines that are from similar areas, and we also have well, I guess that's really it. It's Eastern European Ashkenazi Jewish, and then Dutch Ashkenazi. But yeah, so there's a lot of things going on with it. And so, we're related in all of these different ways, and they just add up. But as well, there's definitely pedigree collapse within those family trees at some point, especially the trees that we haven't been able to build out, because it was just, basically within the past 100 years is when it really became much, much less common for cousins to be marrying each other. And I'm pretty, it's pretty much everyone, they're going to find pedigree collapse in their families at some point, but it's just a matter of the intensity of that amount of pedigree collapse, the intensity of that amount of multiple relations that adds up to higher effects of that endogamy. All right. Hopefully that all made sense. All right. Let's see. Solar H. Last year when I joined MyHeritage after being on Ancestry since 90s, found match to my mysterious great-grandfather, minimal info, and found that branch had many done trees back to Normans and Viking Rollo. Yeah, I mean, you're going to find family trees all the time tracing back to stuff that is not reliable. Like there's so many of that, or there's so much of that online. And that's one of the reasons why I do truly believe in collaborative family trees that have proper protocols in place to keep the tree well maintained, because you can fight those issues. Because what happens is someone puts up a family tree where they claim that they can trace back to, the Viking Rollo, and You know, I don't even, let me see. Remember the Welsh Viking mentioning him. Okay. He actually has, it looks like he has a known connection. Okay, so it looks like he might be a traceable, someone you can actually trace to confidently. Interesting. Viking Rollo. But basically, the main thing is that, you know, you're going to have people having family trees that will trace back to stuff that is not reliable, or at best it's very shaky. You know, and it can be hard when you're looking that far back to, you know, be able to tell truly anything new anyway. But a lot of people, you know, you get one wrong tree online that someone sees and go, oh, that's so cool. They don't look into it. They copy it, and someone else copies it. Next thing you know, you get so many wrong trees. All right, let's put that on. Okay, let's see. Brister, I have a bunch of endogamy on my grandmother's side. She came from a mixed family that only married their own people, matches with like 300 centimorgans and more, with no recent known connection. Okay, interesting. Yeah. One thing I should note that people do kind of get mixed sometimes is that if you have pedigree collapse in your family, or a double relation, it doesn't always mean endogamy. And based on what you're saying, it sounds like it might actually be more of a case of actual pedigree collapse, or multiple relations, or possibly both. But basically, you know, pedigree collapse or multiple relations, that's just, you know, that's just a couple of instances of it in recent time, whereas endogamy is a lot of it happening a lot of times over. So, you know, if you know, in the past 300 years, you know, you've had a couple of pedigree collapses, it's not quite endogamy. And the difference is that with pedigree collapse and actual close multiple relations, it affects the DNA way more, but it's going to be much more it's going to be much more limited in the DNA matches it affects, because it being much more recently, it's not a larger population effect. It's just a recent family effect. So you'll likely be able to identify a lot of those. Granted, I might not necessarily be the case for you. The other thing that I should mention too is when someone does have endogamy, but it's only coming from, you know, a grandparent or a great grandparent or something like that, the further out that ancestor with the endogamous population is, the less it's going to affect how you match others. Because, you know, if it's your grandparent, well, then you have 3 grandparent lines where you don't have to worry about possible multiple relations through. You have only 1 grandparent's line that you have possible multiple relations through. So it can be helpful when it's just like that, or when it's just one recent ancestor, even if it's just like one parent. You know, you've got a whole other parent side, 50% of you, where you don't have to worry about possible other multiple relations. All right, let's jump forward a bit, because I see about 10 minutes behind-ish on these. I see a lot of people kind of talking about their families. Stigrola is my 32nd great grandfather, if you can believe it. I mean, if you have the gateway ancestor of the royal family tree, based on what wiki the wiki has, you know, I know people can confidently trace to John of Lachlan, because I do, which means that I would be able to trace to Viking Rollo. Actually, let's see what Jeannie says, because I'm sure it's going to have me in there too. Yeah. And also, pedigree collapse isn't the same thing as incest. A lot of people think that. Yeah. Well, I guess incest, it gets even more defined, because with incest, it's like, what is the definition of incest exactly? Because I know it's supposed to be closely related. So, okay, parent, child, sibling, or grandchild. So, yeah, which basically means that avunculate marriages are not incestual, which is interesting. Retro Rob Costa coming in from Australia. Good morning, Rob. How's it in the future on Saturday, May 24th? While myself and many of the others here are still May 23rd. Except, I guess, maybe a few of you in, I don't know because we had a few people from the Baltic states, Lithuania and Latvia. I guess it might be past midnight there. Because I know it's like 11:15 in Amsterdam, 10:15 in London, I think. Which I guess wouldn't that also mean our Scandinavian representation? You guys it's midnight there for you. Speaking of which, Sebig from Norway, hello, good to see you. But yeah, okay, let's see. Viking Horf Thurston Bigod. Is that him? 9/11 and 9/28. He's my 31st great grandfather. Which line does it take it through? Okay, it takes it through that line. So this is mine, my connection. So assuming this is the right guy. So Alfonso the Eighth, the Noble Sanchez. Yeah, and I know I trace through multiple lines too. So actually, here, let's see. Let's see. So this is my ancestor, who's one of my gateway ancestors. And he's the one that I'm actually probably one of the ones I'm most confident about too. Okay, so he also descends from through the similar lines. So, and then he's also 13th great grandson's wife's third great grandson. So, yeah. Oh, I've got the wrong Rollo. Okay, I was worried about that. I was worried about that. Okay, let's see. Okay, Rollo the Walker. There's a lot of Rollos. Is it this Rollo? Is this the right Rollo? Okay. So let's do that. My 30th great grandfather. Okay. So through the same line, basically. We'll do that again. Reload this. How are they related? Who? So yeah. So I descend from Rollo in a couple of ways. So Juan Alonso is the 17th great grandson. And Juan Alonso is my 11th great grandfather. So my 11th great grandfather, I think that would be 19 more generations. So 30th great. Hey, there you go. Okay, so, but it's not doing it through that line. It's doing it through my Signor Sarajevo line, which that's not one I've actually researched, so I don't know how reliable it is. So, but it is cool kind of going through the lines, and you see it's like, Almeida, Abrantes, Sane, Sciarra, De Campos, King of Portugal, Rei de Portugal, Alfonso of Portugal, Castile, Quante, Di Quante. So, but then here, yeah, all right. Genie didn't find a connection to Rollo that don't have a paid subscription to Genie. Well, you don't have to have a paid subscription to Genie for it to find the connection. Although I think you have to pay to be able to see the expanded. So like if you don't pay for it, all you can see is this. I think you have to pay to get that. I don't know. One of the things that the Genie manager says all the time, and one of the things I hear a lot of curators say that I think is great advice for anyone using Genie, is that if you're using Genie and constantly hitting the paywall, you really might want to consider paying for it. Now, granted, some people don't want to pay for it because they're happy with WikiTree or Family Search or Ancestry or whatever. But for me, I've found that there's a lot of stuff that is unique to Genie that I think is really, really good. The projects they have, a lot of the advanced stuff they have, the DNA connection they have to it, and all of that. The naming stuff. There's a lot to it. I am a little biased, obviously, but hey, it is what it is. All right. I know I jumped over a lot of stuff, so I'm gonna kind of scroll back and see what this says. I'm gonna need to really check into the whole rules on Twitch about having that thing on screen. Hopefully it's not an issue, but I don't know. We'll find out. All right. I didn't notice. All right. It keeps doing that to me. All right. It's kind of crazy. It doesn't feel like I've been going for over an hour. It doesn't feel like that. Oh my gosh, I have so many messages. Why did I get so many messages? All right. Yeah. One thing I kind of wanted to see what everyone thought here, because especially, I have my hardcore crowd here all the time, but I was thinking at some point, I don't know when I would or what, but I've been thinking about doing like one of those what do you call it, like those like live stream events where it's like like an all-day stream or like a 24-hour stream, or I don't know if I'll do 24 hours, maybe I'll try that or something, but like one of those raise whatever, like try to get stuff going, or I don't know. So, but just kind of curious if that's something that'd be interesting for people to jump into. I don't know. It's been having ideas what I can do. So, but I should also mention I'll have some new videos hopefully coming out on the main channel soon. Gonna try not to say too much else. I always say stuff about the videos I've got working on here, and then it takes me so long to get stuff out. And then I'm like, oh man, I hope I'm not ruining it for everybody. But yeah, Everyone's gone so quiet. So let's see. Oh, well, yeah, Jose, you made it. Just in time. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna go. I don't feels like I said, I've barely been streaming, so I kind of just chill and keep going a little further. So yeah, if you have questions, ask away, or if you have answers to what I was just talking about, let me know. So, but yeah, we got Jose here. Let's see. Checking again some older stuff. There we go. The fifth Duke of Benevente. Yeah, actually, I am kind of curious. Did anyone see the collab I did with Gonzalo? I always forget all of his names. Yeah, Gonzalo, Alexis, Luenga, or Oriana. We did genealogy, bing, pong. What's my relation to King Charles III? Well, let's see. Which King Charles III? Oh wait, you're talking. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna have to take that one off screen. I think I might. At least I need to just double check it. Okay, yeah, I guess I can show that. So yeah, 15th cousins once removed. So our shared ancestry is Fernando de Castro. This is the ancestor I share with King Charles. I've also got Portugal and paternal direct branch, the previous mentioned on dad's mom's side. Do you have a subscription on Open Archiven? I think the extras are really worth it for researching Dutch ancestors. It's 22 euros a year, I think. No, I don't. I actually don't, it's funny. I don't spend a ton of time researching my Dutch ancestors anymore. Like every once in a while I'll dive into it, but usually when I'm doing it, I'm diving into stuff that's like about my ancestry, like the brick walls. So a lot of stuff in like the 1600s, and maybe the closest is stuff in the like early 1700s, but I don't dive into it as much. I did do a little bit more of like more recent research when I was kind of getting to my, or doing, when I did that trip to Europe recently, I guess a couple of years ago now. But that was kind of focusing on stuff. But like for our Open Archive, I think it's mostly it's mostly 1811 and further, because it's a lot of the civil records, some stuff before that, obviously. But I feel like the majority of the records I always end up researching are all on the Amsterdam Archive website, because that's where the archive for the Portuguesa Israelita Gementa, that's waar they staat. That's waar, is it? Yeah, that's waar zijn aan het staat. I don't know if I said that right. I don't know. You'll tell me. Tell me. M. Kwa, what is the best way to find my great-great-grandparents' heritage on my father's side with 3 children born in Saint-Denis, France around 1870? Can't find their birth certificates in France. I mean, there's so, just looking into all the available records for that area, is there something else that might be able to tell you that, the information you're looking for with the birth certificates? Also, I haven't done, I don't know that area of France, and I haven't done a ton of French research. So, I don't know if there might be some nuance to birth certificates as well. DNA testing is another route to look into, especially if you have, descendants of that branch of your tree. You say best way to find my great-great-grandparents. So that means, your great-grandparents. So other descendants, your second cousins or, whatever, the other descendants of your second great-grandparents. See who's shared DNA if you do DNA testing. And then you can try fan research, friends, associates, neighbors. Basically, look at the records you have on them and who are people that are listed, where places they worked, and, just look at everything. So, yeah, lots of possibilities on which way you can go. Oh, yeah. 3/4 siblings. I guess Charlie must have mentioned that before. But yeah, I don't know. 3/4 siblings. There we go. Yeah. So for those who don't know, 3/4 siblings, basically what it means. Did he explain it? Did you explain it somewhere? Did someone might have explained it somewhere, but I'll explain it anyway. Basically, it's like, let's say you have a couple, they have a child, and then the wife passes away. So the husband ends up marrying the wife's sister, and they have a child. Well, the child from the first marriage is a half sibling to the child from the second marriage because they both share the same father, but they're also first cousins because their mothers were sisters. So technically a first cousin, you could also say, is a quarter sibling. I mean, I guess you really can't say that, but if you think of it, it's like the amount of DNA you share, quarter. So that's why it's a 3/4 sibling, because they're a half sibling, their first cousin, 3/4. Yeah. Retro Rob Casa, I just got the Omni plan on my heritage. It includes Genie, so I may have to check it out. Yeah, that's right. The Omni plan. I didn't realize they had rolled it out. I remember they announced it, and then it was like, when are they going to roll this out? But it's probably something that I think would be worthwhile to a lot of people. Can I show this page? Yeah, I don't think it'll be an issue to show this. So the Omni plan includes a lot of stuff. And I know a big thing for a lot of people is like, why is my heritage and Genie not the same subscription? Because they're owned by the same company, but and it's something they heard, and then they were like, well, let's do a huge plan for everything. So it includes all of the MyHeritage stuff. It includes their new old news site, oldnews.com, which is their newspapers. It includes pro features of genie.com, basically all the Genie stuff. Unlimited access to 2,000 online genealogy webinars for all levels on familytreewebinars.com, which is actually pretty cool, especially if you're always trying to learn more. Unlimited photo scanning, and then create 30 live memory animated videos annually. And then they include all the, MyHeritage stuff you get with it too. So definitely a worthwhile thing to consider for anyone who, wants to do a MyHeritage plan and does use Genie from time to time, and, could get use out of this other stuff. In a sense, it's kind of like their version of Ancestry's World Access Plan, I think it's called, or I forgot exactly, but basically Ancestry's plan, where it like includes Fold 3, the military company, or not the military database, includes newspapers.com, and then it includes like a couple of other things as well. Let's see, the Ancestry memberships. So, okay, they call it the All Access. So, All Access, you get invite 4 family members and friends to join you on Ancestry, no cost, same plan, same great features. That is not something I knew about. That's really good to know. I didn't know that. That's good to know. I'm repeating myself. I'm kind of thinking of like what relatives of mine I might actually be able to gift that to that, would really get a lot out of that. Then newspapers.com, fold 3, access to all international records on Ancestry, which you can get with the World Explorer. And then now this is US based, obviously. So if you're in the UK or if you're in Sweden or Scandinavia or Latvia, or Lithuania or the Netherlands or England or whatever, there's going to be other sites for you, and it'll be different or very differently. And then everything else is basically the same. But yeah. Oh, wow. I paid $600 for a subscription, My Heritage. I hope I get that Genie and more. So far, I think it's useless. I keep hitting a brick wall. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if you've got a family that's really difficult to research, you may be hitting a lot of brick walls. The other thing to consider is that, with all these sites, they're constantly adding more records to make it easier for people to find records on their family. But there's a lot of records not in these databases, and especially when you're coming from populations that they might not have done a lot of work in getting those records, you're probably not going to find a lot. So like for a long time, there were a lot of people with Jewish ancestry that really didn't get a lot out of these websites because, once you got outside of the US, or if you were in the, basically once you got back to the hometowns, especially from the Pale of Settlement, then you got into the issue of like, how do I find records on these? They're not on Ancestry, not on My Heritage. They're not here. They're not there. Very limited amount that was available. And, but now it's, there's a lot more available. So, just got to keep hoping. And yeah, that's one of the reasons that I also suggest to people, if they've ever considered, possibly hiring a genealogist, is considering that fact of having all the memberships, because it can come out to a lot of money just to have all these memberships. And it can be really worthwhile to just have a genealogist just for that fact, because not only do you pay for the memberships, then it's also the time and the energy and all that not everyone has. And so it can be really, really helpful to hire a professional to do things like that. So, granted, you said you already paid for it, but it still, might be worthwhile considering, especially if you come from a very specific ancestry, which, you were talking about this Saint D France. Well, if you can find, let's take a look. We're going to take a look for you right now, apgen.com. So that is not the right site. Is it apgen.org? apgen.org. Okay, so the Association of Professional Genealogists. So we're going to find a genealogist. I'm looking for a genealogist to help with, let's just leave it open, because sometimes not all genealogists put things out properly. So you can do it 2 ways. And let's make this bigger so everyone can read it. I'd like a genealogist based in, and you can find someone actually in France, which is sometimes the best thing, because then you can get someone who can go into the archives, because let's say there's just not much digitized from the area that your family's from. Well, you're going to have someone go into an actual archive, or you're going to have to fly out there yourself and do it. The other option is that you can just leave this blank, and instead I'd like a genealogist who researches in. So it doesn't mean that they live there. It just means that they research there. So like for me, I list that I research in the Netherlands, but I don't live there. So, if someone has questions about research for the Netherlands, I can do it. But yeah, and then you have these breakdowns. So I don't know where that Saint D is necessarily, but if you know where it's from, then you choose that, and it may allow you to narrow it down. And so then we do a search. So actually here, let's make it, how many came back? Oh yeah, we got a lot. So instead, let's do it. People actually living in France, and tell me where is this Saint D? Maybe I can find it. Saint D. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where it is. Grand Est. There we go. Okay. So nobody specifically there, but at the very least, France. And so here we go. Here's a bunch of genealogists. And one of the things you can know about all the genealogists listed here, it gives you kind of a breakdown of how to find them, but it also tells you, if, oh yeah, here we go. Information provided by the members of the Association of Professional Genealogists for this directory is displayed by APG in good faith, and APG accepts no liability for incorrect information. All APG members agree to abide by the APG Code of Ethics and Professional Practices. And so basically you go through this and you know that anyone that you hire through this company, they have to adhere to these codes of ethics and professional practices. And if you have an issue with it, there is an actual place where you can file a complaint against a genealogist. So, yeah, funny enough, I just saw you say that. Yes, you can hire. So, that's one way you can go about it. The other way, let's go, because we figured out where it was. So let's go back to France and Hollandaise. All right, let's see. And so there we go. We have two researchers who, one's in Florida, one's in Utah, but they both have research experience in this area. So there you go. And then MQuA, I do have many birth records in France, but names are the same. So who's the ancestors? It's Alsace-Lorraine area. Okay. Oh, nice. Anna Tomaso just used the APG for Scottish research, as I was always trying to get rid of a brick wall. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm going to take this down. Let's put that up. Yeah. That stuff's always good to have. Anna Tomaso. Oh, wait. You just continue that. Sorry. All right. Ron Grass. I have another question for you, Jared. I've been doing my Ancestry for years now, but I'm not able to get past my third great grandmother and third great grandfather on my father's side. I don't know why. I mean, sometimes the records just aren't there. I mean, I have a great grandmother who's a brick wall for me. I mean, that's super recent. So, that it can just happen where, you have ancestors where for whatever reason, the records just are really difficult to find, or they might just not be there. You just never know. John Tyner, evening, Jarrett. Oh, evening, John. Good to see you. Good to see you. And then we have Rob Hokenes. Evening from Amersfoort. I'm getting a call. Evening. Hoe gaat het? Ik hoop dat het al goed. Ik hoop dat alles goed met jou. Yeah, I hope that oh wait, no, I don't know how to say that. I am getting better. What is that? Ich ben goed better? Oh, wait, no, gegaat? I don't know. I'm trying to learn. Oh, whoever just called me left a voicemail too. I got all these different things. Okay. Yeah. Alles goed, dankjewel. Good. Good. Next lifetime, my biggest brick walls are from my 2 times great grandpa from Ireland, and I haven't even really tried yet. It's daunting. Yeah, it sometimes it's tough. If you come from one of those populations, yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Well, I think with that, I'm gonna call it today. As I mentioned earlier, I will have some new videos coming out. Not going to say too much else. Hopefully, much sooner than you'll all expect. Than I usually I say this, and then like 2 months later, a video comes out. But hopefully, won't be anywhere close to that. Hopefully, very, very soon. I'll also mention I'm going to be continuing, obviously, only streaming on this channel, not streaming on the reaction channel anymore. We're going to test it out, see how it affects the algorithm, always playing around with stuff, trying to, how can I get the algorithm to put me in their favor, get really work the algorithm, that sort of stuff. So, obviously he's trying to make good content too. And then always like to mention as well, if anyone would like to do any one-on-one consultations, I am doing a lot more one-on-one consultations these days. So all you have to do is send me an email at GeneaVlogger@gmail.com, and I'll send you, my available appointment times, and you can either book them in 30-minute increments or hour increments. And then for anyone that might want to, do a couple of them, if you set up a couple at one time, I do like a little discount for it. And then on top of that, I also want to mention, for anyone that is part of a genealogy society or a historical society or any sort of group that likes to have speakers come and talk, I'm also booking lots and lots of talks. I'm trying to talk a lot more. So highly suggest that you suggest my talks to your societies. And if they want to know what talks I give, I have those listed on my Association of Professional Genealogists profile. So just like I was showing you before for the directory, just go in there in keyword, type Jarrett Ross, I'll pop right up, and then do that. And lastly, if you'd like to be more involved in the community, please join our Discord server if you haven't already. We do a lot of polls in there now. I'm trying to also make it really fun and have like unique polls in there, because we do polls that are related to the YouTube community polls. But like I did a poll just recently, and actually, I'll bring it up because I think it's a fun one to show. We did a poll recently basically asking, what I want to show me. There we go. Asking, what DNA techniques or tools have you used in your research? And so everyone's answering. The only one that that no one else other than me has done, which is not too surprising, was Q matching and Fred scores, which I guess put a hand emoji, like a raised hand emoji, in chat if you know what Q matching and Fred scores are. But everything else, we have. We've got lots of people experience, and the thing that everyone has done, at least everyone that answered this, was auto clustering. Granted, I should have put a option for none, but I didn't. But either way, lots of fun stuff that we have going on there. And then, Jose's, you don't have a question. You were just talking about stuff. Okay. And then Ron, what about talks at libraries? Yes. If libraries hire people, I do, charge for talking. Obviously, this is one of the way, one of the things is, I should mention, I am trying to make a bit more revenue streams outside of YouTube. YouTube has not been doing too well monetarily for myself as much as I would hope. So been kind of working on a lot of that stuff. But libraries, family history societies, genealogy societies. I've actually done some talks with like some synagogues as well, because I do a lot of Jewish-based talks. So like adult programs and stuff, or advanced educational programs. And then all sorts of stuff. So, if they bring people to come and do talks and they're going to be interested in one of my talks, come and figure something out. So, yeah. So, all right. Well, with that, I think we'll call it. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday or wonderful rest of your weekend if you're in the future, like Rob Casa is, we know, over there in Australia. But thank you very much, and I should hopefully see you next week here on the stream again. I'm Jarrett Ross, the GeneaVlogger. I'll see y'all later.